in this video for the Mjolnir 3D printed keyring, we're going to start looking at the intricate details of how to turn what's already quite a nice looking design into something that's going to stand out a little bit more. And that's by putting these surface designs on the hammerhead here. These can be quite tricky and are going to take time and concentration to do. So be prepared to take your time and go back and fix errors if you need them. I'm going to start on these smaller edges here, which are going to be the easiest ones, believe it or not, because this one on here is going to be very complicated. So I'm going to start off by drawing on this surface here. Now, because this is not a normal plane, this will confuse some people, but all you have to do is right click on that surface and press create sketch, and you're going to look straight at that flat surface. From here, we're going to draw our pattern. Our pattern is going to be formed of purely circles. The first thing we need to do is put a center line down here. So I'm going to take my line tool and activate the center line option, and like we've done in previous video, I'm going to snap to the center point. So hovering over this X here near the center, it snaps to the center point of that line. I know that because there's a little blue triangle symbol. I can click and I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. And luckily for this design, we don't actually need any measurements. I'm going to deactivate centerline, and I'm going to go to my circle tool, and I'm going to draw a circle in the very center. I'm going to go the full width of the design, of this drawing area, should I say. I'll zoom in a little bit, and I now need a circle inside that. And I'm probably looking, if this is 5.657, then maybe 4.5. Looks like a good distance there. We'll work with that. I can now select both of these circles, and I'm going to go to modify, and no, I'm not. I'm going to go to create rectangular pattern, and I'm going to stretch it up, and I want a total of 3, but I want them to be overlapping slightly. So if you look at my designs here, there's a slight overlap. That looks about fine. We'll go with that. And you can see I've got 10.5 and 3. These numbers are important because I'm going to do this again now. So holding Control to select both, create rectangular pattern, and I'm going to do minus 10.5. Oh, that's not right, is it? We'll cancel that and try that again. I know what happened there. So I'll try that again. Create rectangular pattern. I should have, because it was the sideways arrow that was selected first and not the vertical arrow. So now with the vertical arrow selected, I can do minus 10.5. and it will spread out. It's important that you have the same measurements up and down. And I'm working for the center so that we get it all symmetrical as well. I now need to do these same circles off to the side. So here is where I'm going to need to select multiple circles at once. And we'll do all 5, and I'm going to do Control C, Control V, and it's going to paste them in, but they're right on top of the original. So I can now use these arrows to move them. Now I need these to overlap the center just like they have overlapped on the height. So I think there looks good. So minus 2.5 across, but now we need to adjust the vertical, and this needs to be almost perfectly, well, it needs to be perfectly in the middle. So we need the overlap point. I think 2.6 looks very good. Does that look like it's in the center? Not quite. We need to come down a little bit. So maybe 2.65. that looks a bit better. Maybe manually adjust this to minus 2.63. Nope, 25. There we go, 2.625. And I can see with the crossover there and the crossover there on that line, I know that I'm in the right place. So minus 2.625, and you can see where it overlaps nicely all the way along there. And I can see I don't need this pair of triangles here, so I can press OK and let it catch up. I'm actually going to click on each of these circles and just press the delete button, and they're gone. Don't need them. I'm now going to select all these left hand circles here, and I'm going to mirror them. Select my mirror line, which will be the center line I put here, press OK, and I've got this wonderful set of shapes. It looks very confusing. Don't worry. That's that sketch done. Like I said, this is the easier one. We're now going to extrude. And here's where it can get a bit tricky. We need to be very careful here. I need to select each of these parts here that I want to extrude inwards. These are going to be my cutaways. So I'm taking these parts here, making sure I select everything. And I'm going to deliberately not select one of them so I can come back and adjust it afterwards. So I'll make sure I get everything first, and then I will not select one of them. So I'll leave this one here, and I'll come back and edit that, because that's a trick I want to show you. So do all of this. Okay, so there's deliberately been one miss there, that's fine. I'm now going to adjust my view so that it's a little bit more 3D, and we are going to go inwards. Now we're not going far, 1mm is fine, that's enough depth, and press OK, and you can see where I've got now this lovely pattern that's been created here, but you can see I've missed that bit. To edit that part there, I can go down to my history along here, right click on my history and press edit feature, and on my 33 selected I can zoom in and I can select number 34 and press OK, and I have that, and it looks good. I like that. Okay, so we now have our nice detailed design on the surface here. We've got all the parts, but we want to edit this to make it really stand out. So I'm going to go in and edit the feature again, and I'm going to adjust the taper angle to -1 degree, which doesn't sound like an awful lot, but what I've actually done is I've put in a very slight taper so it cuts inwards a little bit, not outwards. And -1 doesn't do an awful lot, so we might change that to -2. And what you can find here is that a very small tapered angle here can really make your work stand out. So I've got that at -2 degrees. Be careful you don't go too far, because with so many overlapping parts it can cause the software to really struggle. It could tell you that it's not possible, or the software can crash. So I tried this at -10 and the software just completely crashed. So I've done it at -2. We'll have a look at that. And the difference it makes is subtle yet significant, because when you look straight on at it you can just see a very faint shadow or echo. And if I undo that, press Ctrl Z, you can see it looks a little bit more boring when we look straight on at it. So looking straight on at that is quite boring. If I go to redo the feature up here, you can see it gives it a bit more style, a bit more flair. And we can go in and we can try and edit that. So I might try and edit that for greater than -2. So let's try -3. And I don't think it likes -3. Nope. And that's where my software is now crashing. So I'll come back in, I'll reset this to -2, and we will go from there. Okay, so I'm now back. I've got my taper set to -2. I think it looks quite nice. It's got a bit of style to it, and that's that bit done. So first off, I'm going to save. Always save your work. And now I'm going to repeat this pattern around all 4 corners. But luckily we haven't got to do all that work again. We can do two things that are going to save us a lot of time, and that's by selecting that extrude, going to create mirror and select my mirror plane. And it's hard to select those planes through the work, so I can go to my origin options again and I can find the planes I want. So I can do my XZ or my YZ. I need to do both of them, but I'll do the XZ first, and you'll see that it's appearing here. And can I also select my YZ? I can't, no, so I can do one at a time. So press OK, and that's now mirrored over here. What I'll now do is I'll select that feature and the mirror, holding Control to select both, create another mirror, and I'll select my mirror plane for my YZ, and you can see they both appear over here. This is the preview of what's going to occur. Press OK, and I have that pattern on all four corners. And because this is quite an intricate design, you can see how many things can go wrong. So just so you're aware, I think I managed to crash Fusion 5 times trying to just record this section. So take your time, follow along carefully, and try not to deviate too much. So save there, press OK, and now we can start on the intricate design on the side here. So for that, I'm going to right click on the surface, create sketch, and let's get ready to start drawing. We're going to need some guidelines, some construction lines to help us. So I go to my line tool, select construction line, and I'm going to draw a few construction lines from left to right all the way across. Notice where it says 0 degrees, doesn't matter about the length because I'm going from side to side, but 0 degrees is important. We don't want it coming off at a weird angle. And I'm going to draw one there, because it very nearly snaps at a strange angle there. So keep it nice and parallel. So it says 62 again. And I think that's all I need for those ones. I'm now going to go to a center line. And it's always handy to have a center line. And again, here's my dead center. Always good. And in fact, I will do one more construction line a little bit lower here. Okay, so now I need my circle tool. I'm going to get my dimension tool first. So I'm going to dimension this bottom one, and I'm going to do that. Oh, it's telling me it's over constrained. The reason it's saying over constrained is when I've drawn that bottom one, I'll cancel that. You can see that I've snapped it to that point, and by dimensioning it, it wants you to move that point. I can't, it's on a fixed point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that line, and I'll draw a new construction line where it's not attached to anything. So there it tried to snap to a center point, so I'm going to make sure it's not attached to anything. So this is where you've got to be careful where you're clicking. There we go, and we'll go over to that, deselect that. So we'll start with this one here. There we go, I can put a measurement in here. I want this 0.5. Looks good. It looks really close to the edge. Don't worry, we're using that for a reason. The next one we want is from this same bottom piece to the next line. We want that at 3. And then from the bottom piece again to the next one, and we want that, oh, again, so yeah, I must have snapped that to something. I can see there, look, I've snapped it to the edge piece again. I want to be very careful with that. So I'll do another construction line. And this is that attention to detail that's really important. So I'm making sure I'm not attaching to anything specifically. There we go, all done. And now I can set that, and this needs to be set to 9, or very, very close, 9. So now I can go to my circle tool. I was jumping ahead of myself there. Again, it's always worth taking your time, being careful. And I want to draw on that point there. So the center point's coming up, the triangle's coming up because it's the center of this construction line here. So that's where I'm drawing. And I want this to have a radius of 21 millimeters. We could adjust that in a minute, but we'll stick with 21 for now. And I've got a nice circle along here. Once I've got that, I'm actually going to convert that into a construction line, because we're going to want that as a construction line as well. I'm now going to put a point where these two meet, and the point's really important because the point we're going to use for a rotation. So if I go to create, I can go to point, I can place a specific point here, and I can press escape because I don't need any more points. Select that circle. I'm now going to do a circular pattern or a rotatory pattern, and your objects 1 center point, I can select that point here, and 3 are there, and you can see now I've got the starting shape that I'm looking for with my pattern, and I've got a bit of room around it as well, which is what I want. That's exactly what I want to do, so press OK, and I've got my 3 circles. Now I can start to get rid of the bits I don't want, and we're going to introduce a new tool here called trim, and this is going to cut away the bits I don't need. So I'm just going to do these bits here to separate it at first. Oh, it doesn't want me to cut that, does it? So what I might have to do first is delete that dimension, and now go back to my trim tool. It's telling me that it's removing constraints. I don't mind it removing constraints, but it doesn't want to let me do that. Okay, so I can at the very least delete these parts here. I don't need these. That's fine. So I've now got that part left. What I'm now going to do is create an offset of each of these. So I'm going to do this, and these are joined together. So we'll see what happens here. Right. So what I need to do here is delete that little symbol there, which locked everything together. Now these are separate. So now I should be able to delete this part here, which I can do. That's fine. And I can delete this whole part there, and I've got the individual parts. So I had to delete that little rotatory part there because that locked everything together, put it into a group in effect. I'm now going to do my offset, and it's giving me the whole thing, and that's, I'm going 0.5 on this outside. Okay. I'm now going to select just that part there. In fact, I'm not going to do, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to select this line first, and here's where sometimes it's worth selecting the line beforehand, like I've been doing throughout the other videos. Now do my offset at 0.5, and I'm going to offset that line as well. 0. Oh, it's not letting me do that line, so I'm going to have to do from this line here. Let's deselect everything, select that line, offset again, and this will be 0.75. So just a little bit further outside that. I need to do this for all of my lines, both inside and out. So I'm selecting this one here, negative 0.5, and again offset negative 0.75. And that's done. I need to do this for all my lines. I'm going to try something I haven't tried before, and I'm going to select those 4 lines. I'm going to see if I can do a circular pattern on my same center point here. Oh, there we go. That's a lot easier, isn't it? That saves me some time. So I haven't got to do that again. So now all I need to do is join these parts together. Now I don't need to join any of this together. I'm going to use my trim tool to get rid of those bits, but I need to join these parts here together. So I'm going to use my arc tool, 3-point arc, point to point, and then draw a curve, point to point, draw a curve. Now I'm going to zoom in to make sure they are attached, and yet they are. because I've had problems before where they haven't always attached. And I'm going to see if I can rotate those around as well. After I rotate them, I will go around and check that the new rotations are attached. And that should come out. Yeah, I can see the preview is looking good. Right, let's go around here. Are they attached? It looks like it. Yep, that looks good. And then we'll go to here, and they look good too. Happy days. So I've got all that outside shape done. I've now got the difficulty of coming up with trimming bits away. So my trim tool is going to be very handy here. I'm going to start off by trimming away these bits up here. Oh, it's not letting me do that again, probably because of these rotational locks. So this is the rotational pattern tool. It tells me that it's grouped together, so I'm going to delete that and delete that for the other one as well. And now I can go in and do it. Yep. And I can get rid of those bits there. That's good. I'm also going to want to get rid of these bits here. And I need to do that in all three internal ends. So get rid of the bits around the outside. I need to get rid of that line there. Because I've got the construction line there, the trim stopped it at that line. There we go. And like with other tools in other CAD softwares, when you're doing this, take your time, go slowly and go carefully. You are not limited like you are in 2D design where you can only go back one step. You can go back multiple steps, but it's always best to take your time and check you're doing it right, because you don't want to have to undo loads of work to fix a mistake. Now comes the tricky bit. We want a continuous loop going round in these channels, but we want to go over and under specific parts. So we're going to start off down here, and we want this bit coming over this bit. And if you're not following, don't worry, this will make sense. So this bit round here will be on top, so we want to get rid of these lines crossing it. That's one side, and then do the other side over here. And you can now see that those two channels are going over these two channels here. At these two channels, we want this bit on top, this bit underneath, so we need to get rid of these channels here so they're being hidden. And by doing that, we're creating this three-dimensional effect where you've got the over under, almost like a weaving pattern. And we come up to the top here, and now we're going to go back down underneath. So this bit going across will be on top, the bit going from top to bottom will be underneath. So what we're going to do is remove these bits here so it looks like it's weaving underneath it. And it sounds really simple what I'm saying, and it looks really simple, but this is one of those processes where if you can't visualize it, it's really difficult. So watch this whole section before you try and recreate it. We come round to here, and now it looks like everything is connected nicely. And there's one way to really find out, and that's by going to the next step. So we're going to finish our sketch, and before I do anything else, I'm going to save it. So hopefully this will work. I should be able to select that section and that section, that section and that section. It's all looking good so far. That section and that section, that section and that section. To zoom in, I can go that section and that section. If you're having trouble selecting some of these sections, do zoom in to get to them. And now I can go to my extrude, and I'm going to go at an angle here. I'm going to go -1, so I'm going in and cutting. And again, I want the -2 2-degree taper again, press OK, and now I have that beautiful intricate pattern on there, and that's what we were looking for. And there we go, we have that lovely surface design. The only part we're missing now was the angled design going across the bottom there, so we're going to do that as well. So create a new sketch on that surface, and we'll start off with a few construction lines. So we want one approximately at this height, so we'll go about here, and this is one of those ones where you can adjust this based on your preference. And we'll do another one quite low about here. Oh, I don't like that, so we'll try that again, because that snaps at the center point there, so I don't want it to snap to the center point, so I'm going to zoom right in for this, just below that center point. Lovely. So if it's trying to snap me to a center point, I don't want it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go past that center point. I can see that it's level, but I'm going to type 62 because I know that's my distance. There we go. So I've now got my upper and lower constraints. I think this upper constraint is too high, so we'll dimension that to there, and that's coming out at 1.868, and we'll change that to 1.6. There we go, it's a nice little bit lower. And we're now going to draw some lines. So I'm going to do this via a center line as well, so I'm going to mirror my work. So I'll go to my line tool, have a center line, and it hasn't got to be all the way across. There's fine. I can now deselect that, and I'm going to use lines from here on in. So I'm going to start on this center line. I'm going to go across, I think about there looks good. So I've got my line going there. It's hard to see, it's black on top of a dotted line, but there is a line there. And then from there I'm going to come down at an angle, and the angle is, you know, not specific. It's not, there's no mandatory angle for this. I'm liking that sort of angle there. That looks good. And then we'll come across all the way to the edge. And what is important is we don't go at an angle like that. We want a nice horizontal. So I'm going to press Tab, and you can see now my angle is highlighted. It's gone on to 159.3. If I adjust that, it moves it around. I think 159.3 is correct. So we'll do that for now, and we can trim this bit off later. That's fine. So I've got that there. I now need to copy that across a little bit below, and this is the part we're going to be creating the channel in. So I'm going to select that line, hold Control for that line, and it's selected the whole center line there, not just that part there. Again, being very careful where we select. Offset, I'm going to go minus 0.5. There we go. That's what I want. I'm going to use my line tool and construction line and draw a straight line that way, and then go press T for my trim tool, escape, T for the trim tool. I can trim away those two parts there. And the last thing I need to do is escape and select these 6 lines that I've got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it doesn't want to let me select that line, does it? I might have to draw that line in manually afterwards. That's okay. Sometimes it's hard to select some of these lines. The alternative would be I could select the center line and delete the construction line, and delete the construction line, and then I'll be able to select everything I want to select. I could have just drawn it in manually afterwards. Both would work fine. And I'm going to do a mirror. My mirror line is going to be that part there. Press OK. I've now got that going all the way across. And then last 2 lines, and I could have done this beforehand, making sure I'm going all the way to the point there. Oh, I've just noticed that's coming as a construction line, hasn't it? And again, it's important to catch these parts. Deselect that, that's now a proper line. And go over to here. Escape, L for my line tool. There are keyboard shortcuts to a lot of the tools, not all of them, but to a lot of them. And I've got that shape there. I can finish my sketch. I can zoom in and select both of those features. I'll go a little bit 3D. E for extrude, -1 is going in, and I'm going to add the -2 degree taper on there. And you can see I've now got that really nice pattern. And the last part for us to do for the creation of this is to select that extrude and that extrude in my history tree. Go to create, mirror, and then on my mirror plane I'm probably looking for my XZ plane. It mirrors around to the other side. That's my preview there. I can press OK, and that is done. And that is the actual construction and the body of our hammer. This last video has got a lot of intricate details in. I'm going to create an additional video so I can show you how to put some renders on to make it look nice visually, and to create some nice renders and images that you can use for other purposes. And then the video after that will be setting up the slicing software so you can get this ready to actually print. Okay, good luck.